Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Happy Monday, everybody. And this is not just a normal Monday. This is Christmas. Today is Christmas, and I hope you've had a wonderful weekend. I hope you enjoyed Christmas Eve. I hope you're spending time with friends and loved ones. I just love all of you guys, and I hope you're really enjoying the holiday. And I hope more than anything that you are spending time with people you love, doing things that you love, and you're really excited about this upcoming week. Now, in line with Christmas, we're going to be talking about embracing togetherness. Christmas tends to bring people together. You spend time with friends, families, loved ones, and here we are in the Christmas season. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. So welcome back to the Aha Moments, where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work as a psychotherapist and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. Of course, I'm your host, Elliott Connie. So since this week we're going to be talking about embracing togetherness, and so many people are enjoying their holiday, so many people are doing things with loved ones during this day, and they're creating memories. There's one thing I want to encourage you to do as you are spending this time, and that is slow down and enjoy the moment. You know, I spent a lot of my childhood, just because of the circumstances I was in. Like, I didn't come from a family with a ton of money, and I wasn't in a circumstance that was terribly comfortable or even safe all the time. I always was focused on, like, I can't wait until this point in the future, like to go to college or to be on my own or to get a job or to not live here anymore. And grew up in Boston, so I didn't want to move out of Boston, or I did want to move out of Boston, and I look forward to where life was going to take me. But now I look back and I'm like, there are certain things that weren't great, but there were certain things that were. For example, I lived across the street from my best friend, Kyle, and it was amazing. Christmas break was always so much fun because every day I'd wake up and just go across the street and see what Kyle was doing during Christmas break, and we got to spend time. And Massachusetts was cold and often covered in snow, so we spent so much of that break, of our breaks, playing video games in Kyle's bedroom. And we usually would ask for a video game for Christmas. And if one of us got it, and neither one of us came from a ton of money, but if one of us got the video game that we were wanting, we would sit in Kyle's bedroom with his little TV set up and we would play video games. And I loved those times. And I wish I had known that those times were temporary. I wish I had known that this only lasts for a small snippet of your childhood, because I would have savored it more. Before too long, life got really serious. We had to go to high school, and things got really serious in high school because you have to do well so you can go to the right college. Before too long, Kyle had a girlfriend, and now our video game time was being taken away by Kyle spending time with his girlfriend. And before too long, I had a girlfriend, and all of a sudden, we're just not spending those times together in the way that we used to. We didn't drift apart. I mean, he's my lifelong best friend. He's still my friend. But those moments of, like, you know, that Saturday morning feeling, that Christmas Day feeling, that Christmas break feeling, that was temporary. That doesn't last forever because then life gets serious. We now live in different states. We have different responsibilities. I run a business. Kyle's got a big family. Kyle's oldest daughter just went away to college, and he's coaching his son's baseball team, and his middle daughter, my goddaughter, shout out to Raina, is a standout athlete. They're all standout athletes, actually, but, you know, life and priorities shift, and those times are temporary. And then there's also, like, loss issues. You know, I was really close to my Uncle Jeffrey, who passed away a few years ago, and I'll never get to see Jeffrey on Christmas again, and I wish I had savored those moments. So as you're doing things today on this Christmas Day, and you're spending time with your loved ones, and you're spending time with the people you care about, and you're surrounded by all those people, slow down and savor the moment and recognize this does not last forever. Recognize this is a small moment in life and just take it in. Take pictures and just pause and really look around and embrace the moment, because there will be a day that you look back and realize we can never get together like this again. So make sure you enjoy this moment. Merry Christmas. When I was a kid, we used to always go back to Chicago, Illinois for major holidays as often as possible. Probably not every single one, but as often as possible. And this is before you're in high school and you got your own circle of friends and girlfriends and athletic practices and stuff like that. We would pack up the car and drive to Chicago with my mother. Occasionally we flew, but usually we drove. It was too expensive to fly. And we'd get together as a family, and it was amazing. Like, it was joy and laughter and food. I mean, it was really like, if you've ever seen the movie Soul Food, it was like that. It was just a bunch of people getting together who loved each other, who were related. It was special, truly, genuinely special. And today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favorite memories. And there's a reason I want to talk to you about it. So I want to share that with you today. So welcome back to the Aha Moments, where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work as a psychotherapist and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. Of course, I'm your host, Elliott Connie. One of these trips, I remember it like it was yesterday. The whole family got together and decided to do like a secret Santa. So everybody like pulled a name out of a hat. Because if you were buying gifts for every family member, that would get very expensive very quickly. And nobody in this family is, overly wealthy. So to keep the cost down and to keep it fun, we did this like secret Santa. And one of my uncles, Jimmy, he's married to my aunt, he put on a Santa outfit, and he was the one that gave out the gifts to the kids. And I remember the food. I can literally close my eyes today and I could remember the food, like the ham and the macaroni and cheese and the mashed potatoes. Like the macaroni and cheese that my aunt makes is so good. I years later forced her to give me the recipe. My family's actually quite selfish and stingy with the recipes, so I made her give me the recipe so I could make it. Like it was just unbelievable. And I remember all of the kids getting gifts and just being so excited and playing, and I remember how much joy and fun it was in that room. And then there was my older brother's name is Adam, just had this sadness come over him because he didn't have a gift. So everybody had picked a name out of a hat, but Adam didn't have a gift. As all the gifts were being passed out by my uncle who's dressed as Santa Claus, my older brother gets no gift and he's really sad. I don't know how old he was, probably 11, let's say, 10 or 11, somewhere around there. And he had no gift, so he was left out and kind of bummed. And everybody's asking around. My grandmother was asking around who was supposed to buy Adam a gift. And it was my Aunt Faye. My Aunt Faye, it's hard to describe her. She was kind of a large woman, huge personality, really, really nice. Or I should say really, really generous, but could be really, really mean. So when we realized that Faye did not buy Adam a gift, we didn't know it's because she was mad, because sometimes Faye would just be mad at you and you had to deal with the consequences of Faye being mad at you. So we didn't know if she did it on purpose or it was just like an oversight, like something she just missed, something she just didn't pick up on. When we addressed it, when it was brought up to her, she felt bad and she said, "Oh my gosh." And I'll never forget, she reached into her bra. Back then, women would store things in their bra, and Faye would put her cigarettes and her money in her bra. And she reached into her bra and she pulled out some money. And I say a wad of money, but it was probably $20 in fives and ones, but to me as a kid, if my older brother was 10 or 11, I was, 8 or 9. So to me, that was like a wad of money. And she pulls out this wad of money, she hands Adam some of it, and he was quite pleased, and, away we go. And we were all just freaked out. We had never seen anything like that. We just thought, what the heck just happened? My aunt just reached into her bra and pulled out all this money. And do I take them? Adam was like, what? This money has been in somebody's bra. What do I do? And it was just so hilarious. It was so funny. Now, to this day, my grandmother has passed away. Faye has passed away. Many people in that room are just not around anymore. But interestingly, my mother now lives in the apartment. Say apartment, but it's if you know Chicago, it's like a multifamily building. My mother lives in one of the places in there. She lives in the same place where this party happened. And when I go to visit my mother in Chicago, there's a picture in there from that night of my Uncle Jimmy wearing the Santa Claus outfit. And I remember every time I go, I visit my mom in that place and I can see that picture and I can re-experience that moment through that picture. Yesterday was Christmas, the day before was Christmas Eve. And I hope some of you created memories that will last a lifetime and will impact your life forever going forward, because that's really what life is about. I don't know what I got. I don't remember what I got for a gift. I'll never forget Adam's gift, but I don't remember what I got for a gift. But I'll also never forget the memories. So make sure you are creating moments, you are creating meaningful memories that will last a lifetime, because that's really what matters, and that's what life is all about. Spending time with other people is an unbelievably valuable thing. it does something for your mental health. And I honestly think the past few years have really brought that home for all of us. Because when the pandemic happened and we ended up in a position of being isolated, and it was no longer safe to be around other people in groups, it was no longer safe to handshake with another person, it was no longer safe to hug another person, it was no longer safe to be around other people. As a psychotherapist, I started experiencing more referrals for depression and anxiety directly linked to that isolation. So today I'm going to talk about exactly why isolation is so devastating, or I guess more importantly and more specifically, I'm going to talk about why togetherness is so healing. So welcome back to the aha moments, where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work as a psychotherapist and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. Of course, I'm your host, Elliott Connie. And maybe the best example I can give you on how wonderful togetherness is comes from the field of medicine. And I don't even know if doctors know why what I'm about to tell you is true, but I do know that doctors know what I'm about to tell you is true. And the first thing is, if a woman is pregnant and she births premature children, twins, and they're so premature, they're concerned about their ability to survive. They don't put the twins in independent cribs or, they put them together. And when they hug each other, they start healing. Because togetherness really has a healing component. And at some point, as human beings, we're going to have to start acknowledging, accepting, understanding, and acting as though there's an energy between us. And that energy matters. That transaction, that transition, that transformative thing that goes on between two people of energy happening really does matter, and it impacts us. And we've known that since we were kids. How many times when you were a child do you remember, or maybe you have a child now who's going through this, I can't sleep, but I can sleep on your lap. I remember feeling like my mother's shoulder was the most comfortable place in the world. And I wanted to lay on my mother's shoulder when I was 5 years old in church or watching television. And I realize now it's not the shoulder itself, because I'm not sure another person's shoulder was that comfortable. But hers was, because she was that person. She was my person. She was the person I was connected to in such a deep, passionate, connected way. That's just the reality. But we don't behave that way, and we need to recognize that there's a connection between all of us, and that connection is healing. That connection generates, or should generate, compassion. It should generate warmth. It should make us who we are. Human beings are innately connected. Think about it for a second. When I was a kid, I used to love a cartoon called The Jetsons, which was about the future. And then there was another movie that came out about the future called Back to the Future. And then we've lived in that future, right? Back to the Future 2, when they went into the future, that future date was in 2015. We're now 8 years beyond that. We don't have flying cars. We don't have many of the things you saw in that Back to the Future movie. Why? Because human beings aren't innately technical. We're innately connective. So what do we have? We have tools of technology that make connection possible and easy, right? We invented social media. We invented phones with massive enough memory and power that I can literally put my entire contact list, movies, I can put every song ever in my pocket. Why do we do that? Because as human beings, we're connective, and we built tools as a species to allow us to be connected, because that's what we want, more connection. It's literally healing and good for our mental health, but often underutilized. Most people, when they're in a situation when they need help, they don't even reach out to their networks. They don't tell people they need help. But yet that's what human beings thrive on. Yesterday was a major holiday. It was Christmas, and I spent time with family, and I'm a better person for it. I know many of you listening to my voice today spent a lot of time with family recently too. My challenge for you is to keep that going. Don't just make it an annual thing at a holiday. Thanks for being here. Please share this podcast on your social media platforms and help me reach more people, or even share it with just one or two people in your life that you think would experience this as a difference maker. in their world. Also, follow me on social media. At Elliott Speaks is my handle on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also just search my name, Elliott Connie. Pretty easy to find. And become a subscriber to this podcast if you haven't done so already. You can do that wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Simplecast, wherever. You can also become a VIP listener by subscribing on Patreon and getting access to bonus content, which includes extra episodes each week and transcriptions from each and every episode. Thank y'all so much. I love you for being here, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Have you ever felt totally alone? Like you were dealing with a problem or a challenge or a life circumstance, and you literally felt like the only person on the planet who was dealing with that same thing? You felt like if you voiced it to somebody else, they would not understand, thus making you feel even worse and even more isolated? I know I have, and I'm betting many of you have too, where you were struggling so bad and so mightily, you had to hold it in for fear that you were actually the only one going through it and that no one would understand your circumstances. I also bet you that came at your detriment. I also bet you were really, really struggling while that happened, and I'll bet you had sleepless nights, anxiety, depression, and I want to talk to you about how I dealt with that situation, because I never want anybody out there to feel alone again. So welcome back to the Aha Moments, where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work as a psychotherapist and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. Of course, I'm your host, Elliott Connie. And look, life is really, really hard and really, really challenging. And we all are going to deal with challenges. We're all going to deal with circumstances. We're all going to deal with things going on in life that just make it so incredible and incredibly hard to overcome. But sometimes we compound it and we make it harder than it needs to be by dealing with really hard circumstances on our own. We don't do it on purpose. It's just, I've heard people say to me, I'm a practicing psychotherapist and I've seen lots and lots of clients over the years. And I've heard people tell me some of the most unbelievably challenging and hard things that they're dealing with in life. Traumas, abuse, you name it, betrayal, heartbreak, grief. And I'll ask them, have you told anybody in your life? And they'll say, no, I didn't tell my wife or best friend or siblings or whatever. And when I say, how come? They say, I don't want to burden them with this. And in my head, I always think the same thing. Like, you're not burdening people. The people around you who are really, really close to you, who love and care about you, they want opportunities to make you feel better. They want opportunities to help you heal. They want opportunities to be there for you in your struggle. Often you've been there for them and they want opportunities to pay you back for that with their kindness, with their devotion, with their warmth and love. But we don't do that. We hold it in. We hold it in and we don't tell anybody. And I've had to learn, that is not good for me and my health. I'm lucky. I'm really, really blessed. I have a friend. See, I'm someone who wants to normalize telling your male friends you love them. I am someone who wants to normalize being vulnerable and transparent to people, even when it's hard. And I learned a lesson within my friendship with somebody really close to me named Matthew. You've heard me talk about Matthew before on this podcast if you've been listening for a while. And I have a couple of friends like this, but Matthew was the first. When I was in my, 20s, I met Matthew when I was 19. And we were friends. We've been close ever since. We went to college together, went to grad school together. Matthew went on to become an attorney. I went on to become a psychotherapist. But he got a master's degree in counseling before he became an attorney. That's why we went to grad school together. It was hard in those years. When you're trying to start your career and start your adult life, it was hard. And we had hard things to do. I got a big exam today or whatever it might be. And I used to call Matthew. And I would tell him about the challenge I had. Man, I got this big exam. I don't know how I'm going to pass it. And, my mom might be sick and I don't know how I'm going to get through this, whatever it was. And Matthew and I developed this phrase. I'd say to him, shoot one up for me, which was our way of saying, pray for me, say a prayer for me. So I'd call Matthew and I would tell him hey man, I'm going through this thing. I got this obstacle, got this challenge, got this thing. Would you shoot one up for me? And I didn't realize that I was actually practicing the art of asking for help. Because in order to ask Matthew to shoot one up for me, I had to express to him what I was going through. And every single time, he responded by saying, I got you. Never any judgment, never any criticism, never any nothing. I'd say, Matt, I'm going, I need to get through this thing, man. I got this massive interview for a job tomorrow. Shoot one up for me. I got you. And then he would do the same thing. Elliott, I'm studying for the bar. I got you. And I realized I'll never be alone again because I now have someone in my life I can call and I can tell him some of the stupid decisions I've made, some of the stupid circumstances, or at least as I perceive them stupid. And he's never judged or criticized me. He just says, I've got you. So no matter what you're dealing with and what you're going through, you are never alone. Find someone in your life that you can tell your circumstances, even if you are embarrassed about it. And that person will say, I got you. If you have somebody like that in your life, you'll never be alone. So I want you to sit and reflect. Who in your life can you share everything to? When you ask that person for help, they'll simply say, I got you. Thanks for being here. Please share this podcast on your social media platforms and help me reach more people, or even share it with just one or two people in your life that you think would experience this as a difference maker in their world. Also, follow me on social media. @Elliott Speaks is my handle on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also just search my name, Elliott Connie. Pretty easy to find. And become a subscriber to this podcast if you haven't done so already. You can do that wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Simplecast, wherever. You can also become a VIP listener by subscribing on Patreon and getting access to bonus content, which includes extra episodes each week and transcriptions from each and every episode. Thank y'all so much. I love you for being here, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. This week has been a lot of fun as I've talked about togetherness and the impact of togetherness and being surrounded by people that love you and care about you and just having people around. You know, I was on social media recently and saw, some, I don't remember who it was, but some very successful business person or famous person, whatever it was, talking about the most important decision you make is the decision that you make about the people around you. And I think that's true. I think that's very true. But on the flip side of that, there's loneliness. And some people just feel completely and totally isolated and alone. And we need to talk about that. We need to have that conversation. Like, what do you do if you accept the truth that togetherness is impactful and important, but you feel really isolated and alone? And that's what we're going to talk about today. So welcome back to the Aha Moments, where every day I share the lessons I've learned in my work as a psychotherapist and in my life to inspire you to live your very best life. Of course, I'm your host, Elliott Connie. And let me tell you a really quick story. Then we're going to talk about loneliness to demonstrate the importance of togetherness and who you have around you. When I went to college, there was this woman that came to the university I was going to play basketball. She was an incredibly talented point guard on the basketball team. She was good, had a bright future. Everything about this young lady was just outstanding. The problem was they put her in a room with a junior. So she was a freshman. Her roommate was a junior and like a really popular partier on the school campus. So as a consequence, this freshman was hanging out with this upperclassman, partying, doing things that she shouldn't have been doing. And rather than come to your freshman year and get acclimated to a new university and what it's like to be a college athlete and focus on grades and athletics, she was massively distracted. It just completely altered. I remember one day they were drinking and this girl, I won't say her name, but this girl got really, really sick from drinking. And as a joke, the upperclassman that she was rooming with said, you know what helps you when you're drunk and feeling sick is drinking a tall glass of milk as fast as you can. So being young and impressionable, she did it and got even sicker. It was just like awful. She only lasted 1 year in college, and a few years later, several years later, we become Facebook friends, and her life was completely altered. And I often think back, what would her life have been like if she had roomed with someone that was truly advocating for her to make the right decisions and her to do good things and her to be at her best? That's how important togetherness is. Now, on the flip side of that, there's loneliness, and a lot of times we feel alone. We feel like we're the only one going through a difficult circumstance. And I want to tell you, you are never alone. There are so many people that love you and care about you that you don't even know or notice. Because what happens is when we go through a difficult thing, our perception skews. And really specifically, it shrinks. And all of a sudden, we feel like there's no one around. But there are people watching you and paying attention and rooting for you that you don't even know. Unfortunately, the people that are rooting against us and the people who are cheering against us and the people that want to see us fail and be in despair are the ones who get most of our attention. But there are people that truly have your back and are in your corner. We just don't know. So if I had one piece of advice, it would be to go all in. If I had one piece of advice, it would be to get really focused and look around your life and just like, who are the people that I can trust and that care about me? Go and find that church leader that you used to really like. Go find that athletic coach that used to coach you in middle school you felt a connection with. Go find those people because they're there and they want opportunities to support you. They want opportunities to show you they love you. They want opportunities to help you. And I tell people this all the time. Isolation is one of the number one contributors to suicidality. And trust me, there are people in your life that would rather have an uncomfortable phone call with you than attend your funeral. You just have to be able to locate those people and then reach out to them, and it'll change and save your life. That's the message today. Look through your life for the people that know you, love you, support you, and know that those are the people and you are never alone. Thanks for being here. Please share this podcast on your social media platforms and help me reach more people, or even share it with just one or two people in your life that you think would experience this as a difference maker in their world. Also, follow me on social media. @Elliott Speaks is my handle on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also just search my name, Elliott Connie. Pretty easy to find. And become a subscriber to this podcast if you haven't done so already. You can do that wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Simplecast, wherever. You can also become a VIP listener by subscribing on Patreon and getting access to bonus content, which includes extra episodes each week and transcriptions from each and every episode. Thank y'all so much. I love you for being here, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow.